think about the word no. I mean, it's two letters.
Just one syllable.
Right, one syllable. And, a toddler says it like 100 times a day with zero hesitation. For a 2-year-old, it is just effortless. But for us, like as adults, saying that tiny word often feels like you're, I don't know, trying to defuse a live bomb.
Oh, absolutely.
You're sweating, you're analyzing every possible outcome, trying to figure out which wire to cut so you don't blow up a relationship or a career opportunity or even just a family dynamic. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're exploring the art, the psychology, and the strategic power of saying no.
And it really is a minefield for so many of you listening. I mean, the fear is palpable.
Oh.
You worry about being perceived as selfish or not a team player or just a bad friend.
Yeah, exactly.
But looking at the research we've gathered today, saying no isn't just some, abrasive communication tactic.
Yeah.
It's actually the ultimate tool for preserving your identity, your energy, and really the health of your long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm. Right. So let's unpack this. Because we have a massive stack of source material sitting in front of us today. We've got psychology research on burnout. We've got insights from executive negotiation summaries. Specifically, we're looking at William Ury's framework in The Power of a Positive No.
Such a good book.
It really is. And we also have this surprisingly helpful collection of everyday templates. Things like how to decline a job offer without burning a bridge, navigating high-conflict co-parenting, and even some pretty wild scenarios from the world of nonprofit fundraising.
Which are fascinating, by the way.
Oh, totally wild. So the mission today is to figure out why this 2-letter word paralyzes us and how you can actually master it. But to get to the how, we really need to start with the why. Like, why do our brains seem completely hardwired to say yes, even when we know it's going to actively hurt us?
Well, the difficulty isn't just a lack of willpower. It's not a character flaw. It is deeply, deeply embedded in your biology.
Biology.
Yes. As humans, we are biologically wired for bonding and social cohesion. I mean, think about it. Back in our hunter-gatherer days, if you were rejected by the tribe, you just didn't survive.
Right, you're out in the cold.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And to maintain that cohesion, our brains are equipped with these things called mirror neurons.
Okay, right. These are the cells that they fire both when we act and when we observe someone else acting.
That's exactly the mechanism. So when someone asks you for a favor and you say no, you see their face drop. You see their disappointment or their frustration.
Mm.
And because of your mirror neurons, your brain literally simulates their emotional state.
Wow.
Their sadness or disappointment feels physically uncomfortable in your own body.
Right.
Your brain interprets their, momentary social rejection as a literal threat to your own safety. So you say yes just to make that uncomfortable feeling go away.
Which completely explains that terrible, sinking, almost nauseous feeling in your stomach when you have to turn someone down.
Yes, you're literally feeling their letdown.
But it's not just a biological reflex, right? Like, we're also trained to appease. One of the notes in our sources highlighted this cultural practice in Sri Lanka where children greet their parents by bending down and touching their feet.
It's a really profound and beautiful sign of respect within that culture. But as the sources point out, it also perfectly illustrates how deep-rooted the expectations of deference and caregiving and just compliance can be, really no matter where you grow up.
Right.
From a very young age, across almost all cultures, we are conditioned and rewarded for being accommodating.
We get gold stars for being the easy child, the helper, the one who doesn't cause a fuss. And over time, according to clinician Leah Marone in our psychology sources, that biological and cultural training creates something she calls the inner pleaser.
Right, the inner pleaser. It's essentially an internalized voice. And its entire job, its only goal, is to try to protect you from judgment, isolation, or being seen as a bad person.
By just saying yes to everything.
Exactly. It does this by constantly, almost aggressively, putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own.
You know, it sounds like the inner pleaser is essentially an overzealous bodyguard. Like it's trying to keep you safe from conflict, but in doing so, it accidentally locks you in a prison of your own obligations. You're safe from other people's anger, but you're totally trapped.
That is a really powerful way to visualize it. It's a bodyguard that sees every single request as a life or death social threat. And the real world consequence of letting that bodyguard run your life is incredibly severe.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's look at the case study from the psychology sources about Nina. So Nina is a self-employed interior designer. She loved her work, and she genuinely cared about her clients. So she started saying yes to little things.
The little things always get you.
Right, late-night emails, accepting last-minute changes to floor plans, working through her weekends to hit these totally unrealistic deadlines.
And she probably told herself she was just being, highly dedicated. Like, I'm just providing great customer service.
She absolutely did. But the sources detail how her body started keeping score. It wasn't just that she was a bit tired. She developed chronic tension headaches. She was grinding her teeth at night. Her sleep was completely fractured. And she suffered from intense brain fog.
Oh, wow.
She thought she was building a great business, but she was systematically dismantling her own health.
She hit total burnout. And what really stood out to me in the research from Christina Maslach and Michael Leiter, who, by the way, are absolute pioneers in this field, is how they define burnout. They don't just say it's being really tired.
No, not at all.
They define it as a fundamental breakdown in the relationship between a person and their work. It's a profound form of self-abandonment.
That phrase is so key. Self-abandonment. When you constantly override your own limits to please others, you lose your internal compass. You abandon yourself. And one of the biggest, most reliable indicators that your inner pleaser is running the show and driving you toward that self-abandonment is resentment.
Oh, yeah. That simmering, passive-aggressive feeling when you're doing a favor for someone, but you're secretly just seething about it.
We have all been there. But instead of feeling guilty about that resentment, the sources suggest we should actually view it as a diagnostic tool.
Like a check engine light.
Exactly. If you are feeling resentful while fulfilling a request, that feeling is a helpful guidepost. It is your mind's way of loudly announcing that a boundary is missing.
Okay, so if saying yes out of fear leads to this massive self-abandonment and burnout, we clearly need a new strategy. And here's where it gets really interesting. In William Ury's framework, From the Power of a Positive No, he argues that our entire concept of refusal is backwards.
Completely backwards.
He says that every effective, sustainable no must actually be anchored in a much deeper yes.
And this is the core paradigm shift of his entire philosophy. Most of us view no purely as a rejection of the other person. But Ury says a positive no isn't about rejection at all. It's about protection.
Protection of what?
Well, he breaks it down into what he calls the 3 great gifts of a positive no.
Yeah.
First, saying no creates the actual space for what you want to do. Second, it protects what you fundamentally value.
Okay.
So your time, your ethics, your family, your health.
Right.
And third, it has the power to change a dynamic that no longer works.
Right.
But the vital piece is that your no draws its strength directly from your yes.
Okay, let me push back on this a bit. Because the concept of boundaries gets thrown around a lot these days, often, I think, incorrectly.
Oh, definitely.
If my deeper yes is that I value my weekends with my kids, isn't my boundary just telling my boss, you need to stop emailing me on Saturdays? Like, isn't a boundary just a polite way of trying to control someone else's behavior so they stop bothering you?
I'm so glad you brought that up
Yeah.
because the source material draws a very sharp line here. What you just described, telling your boss to stop emailing you, is a wish list. It's not a boundary.
Wait, how is that not a boundary? I'm literally telling them my limit.
Because you are attempting to dictate their actions. A wish list relies on the hope that they will change their behavior to accommodate you. But you cannot control if your boss hits send on a Saturday afternoon.
That's true.
A true boundary is entirely about defining what you are willing to do. Your boundary in that scenario is simply, I am unavailable to read or respond to work emails between Friday evening and Monday morning.
Ah. Okay, I see the difference. The wish list requires their compliance,
Yes,
but the boundary only requires my own discipline. Like, I can't stop them from sending the email, but I am in total control of whether I open it.
precisely. Boundaries are about taking ownership of your own response. And to execute that effectively, especially in the heat of the moment, Yuri introduces this fantastic concept called the mental balcony.
I love this imagery. How does it actually work in practice? Let's say a colleague walks up to your desk at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday and drops a massive urgent file on your keyboard.
Classic scenario. In that moment, your amygdala spikes. Your immediate emotional reaction is either fear like, I have to do this or I'll be fired, or intense anger. Like, how dare they do this right before I leave?
Right. You just want to scream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you react from the floor of that emotional reaction, you'll either appease them or you'll blow up at them. Going to the mental balcony means intentionally hitting pause.
So literally buying time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You step back to gain cognitive distance. You might say, let me look at my schedule and get back to you in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And in those 5 minutes, you mentally walk up to a balcony overlooking the situation. From up there, you can detach from the immediate pressure and reconnect with your deeper yes. You remind yourself, my yes is going to my daughter's soccer game tonight. Once you have that clarity, you can walk back downstairs and deliver your no.
And part of that balcony time is also developing what Yuri calls your plan B, right? Because it's great to have a boundary, but what if the other person completely ignores it and demands you do the work anyway?
Right. A plan B is your practical backup strategy to ensure your interests are protected regardless of their cooperation. Yuri uses a really powerful historical example for this, Rosa Parks.
Oh, yeah, from the book.
Right. Her initial no to giving up her bus seat was anchored in a profound yes to her own human dignity and civil rights. But her plan B wasn't just hoping the bus driver would respect her boundary.
Because he clearly wasn't going to.
Exactly. Her plan B and the massive coalition she helped build was the Montgomery bus boycott. And what's crucial is that it relied on positive power withdrawing their economic support to protect and advance their interests, rather than punishing power meant simply to inflict harm.
Wow. So you find your deeper yes. You use the mental balcony to detach, you establish a boundary based on your own actions, and you have your plan B ready.
That's the formula.
That sounds incredibly solid on paper, but what happens when you actually deliver the no and the other person pushes back hard? Like, how do you keep from crumbling when you're suddenly in a verbal wrestling match?
Well, that brings us to one of the most practical tools in our sources, especially for high conflict communication. It's an acronym called JADE.
JDE.
Yes, it actually originated in Al-Anon programs for dealing with addiction dynamics, but psychologists universally apply it to any boundary setting scenario. It stands for justify, argue, defend, and explain.
Justify, argue, defend, explain. Okay, I want to test this. Let's role play the scenario from the sources about declining a family gathering due to um, COVID-19 or health risks.
Hmm.
I'm going to say no, and I want you to be the pushy family member. Ready?
Please do it.
Hey, I can't make it to the indoor gathering this weekend. With the current infection rates in our county spiking and the fact that the house doesn't have great ventilation, my doctor really advised against it. Plus, I have that big work trip coming
Oh,
up.
come on. Uncle Bob is fully vaccinated. We can just crack a window in the living room, and infection rates aren't even that bad here compared to the city.
Wow. Okay, I feel it. I instantly feel the trap.
Fast, right?
Yeah. By listing off all those reasons, the ventilation, the doctor, the infection rates, I thought I was softening the blow, but I actually just gave you a menu of items to debate with me.
What's fascinating here is what happens to our brains in these moments. When we feel anxious about disappointing someone, our executive functioning just drops. We regress into trauma or threat responses.
Freezer panics.
Exactly. The inner pleaser panics and thinks, if I can just explain my logic perfectly, they will agree with me and they won't be mad. But as you just felt, giving a laundry list of facts doesn't create understanding. It invites negotiation.
Right.
It shifts the conversation away from your boundary and turns it into a debate about the validity of your excuses.
Because suddenly we aren't talking about whether I'm attending. We're arguing about HVAC systems and infection statistics. I totally lost control of the boundary.
Exactly. Now let's look at how the JDE framework applies to an even more intense environment. High conflict co-parenting. Imagine a scenario where a toxic ex sends an angry text demanding to know why a drop-off schedule needs to change, accusing the other parent of being selfish, disorganized, and deliberately difficult.
The natural instinct is to fiercely defend yourself, to fire back a massive paragraph arguing about why you aren't selfish, justifying your schedule, explaining how busy you are at work.
But a JDE compliant response strips all of that emotional bait away. You don't justify, you don't argue, you don't defend, you don't explain. A proper response looks like this. The schedule needs to change due to a conflict. Let's confirm if 5 p.m. works for the new pickup time.
Man, it's completely neutral. It gives them absolutely nothing to grab onto. You know, it actually reminds me of the gray rock method I've read about for dealing with narcissists, where you just make yourself as uninteresting and boring as a gray rock so they leave you alone. Is JDE just another version of gray rock?
They definitely share DNA, but there's a nuanced difference. Gray rock is essentially an evasion tactic. It's about shutting down communication and starving a manipulative person of the emotional drama they crave until they lose interest in you entirely.
Right.
JDE isn't about shutting down the communication, it's about actively shaping it. You are still engaging, but you are forcing the conversation to stay strictly focused on the practical logistics. You maintain a cooperative professional tone, but you build a wall against manipulation.
And this isn't just for toxic families. One of our sources from Cheflo Consulting talked about how vital avoiding JDE is for workplace defensiveness. Like, if you make a mistake on a major project, the immediate shame-driven urge is to explain.
Oh, yes.
You want to launch into a 10-minute monologue about how your internet dropped and the accounting department was late with the numbers and you had a migraine.
Which often just makes you look unreliable and unable to take feedback.
Right. But using the JDE principles, you bypass the excuses and just own the reality. You say, you're right, I missed that error. Here is the step I will take right now to fix it.
Accountability does not require self-punishment or justification. By skipping the excuses, you protect your dignity, you provide immediate clarity, and you actually preserve your professional reputation much better than over-explaining ever could.
So, what does this all mean for the tactical, everyday execution? We've explored the biology of the inner pleaser. We know how to find our deeper internal yes. And we know how to avoid the JD trap of over-explaining. Let's look at how this plays out in the professional world, where you have to say no, but you desperately want to keep the door open for the future.
Let's do it.
I've been looking through the business templates from places like the Muse and PandaDoc, and underneath all the different scenarios, there is a very clear, universal four-step formula for a graceful refusal.
Let's walk through those 4 steps.
Okay, step 1, gracious gratitude. You must sincerely acknowledge the effort the other person put in. Step 2, a clear, immediate no. Don't be vague. Don't say maybe later if you absolutely mean no. Step 3, brief, honest reasoning. Just one sentence. And remember, no JDing. And step 4, a forward-looking close.
That 4th step is absolutely critical for preserving relationships. William Murray refers to this concept as building Sun Tzu's golden bridge.
I love that phrase.
It's great. In military strategy, you always build a golden bridge for your opponent to retreat across so they don't fight to the death. In communication, you are constructing a bridge for the other party to exit the rejection with their dignity fully intact, while also pointing toward a positive future interaction.
Let's apply this formula to a few specific stressful scenarios. First, declining a job offer. You went through 3 agonizing rounds of interviews. You like the team, but the salary they offered is just too low.
The guidance from the news is excellent here. First,
Yeah.
whatever you do, do not ghost the recruiter just because you're uncomfortable delivering bad news.
People do that all the time.
They do, and it's terrible. Be prompt. Step 1, express genuine gratitude for the time they invested in interviewing you. Step 2 and 3, deliver the clear no with brief reasoning. State that while you respect the company, the compensation is below your current expectations. Then, step 4, the golden bridge state that you would be open to future conversations if there is flexibility in the budget down the line.
So you leave the door cracked open.
Exactly.
And what if it's just not the right fit at all? Like, you don't want the job regardless of the money.
Then you can use the referral tactic.
Yeah.
You say no for yourself, but you offer to pass the job description along to your network, or you provide a specific colleague's LinkedIn profile. It immediately transforms your no into a high-value interaction for that recruiter.
Brilliant. Okay. Next scenario, declining a business proposal from a vendor. They sent a huge pitch, but you don't want to buy their software.
Again, a prompt, polite no protects your brand's reputation. Ignoring a vendor might feel easier today, but it can really backfire if they eventually move to a company that becomes a potential partner or client.
That makes sense.
State clearly that the budget or timing doesn't align. However, be incredibly careful not to offer unprompted, specific feedback.
Like saying, your pricing is way higher than your competitors.
Exactly. As the sales experts at Etiberia instantly point out, saying you are too expensive doesn't sound like a boundary. It sounds like a negotiation opener. It invites them to push back with discounts. If it's truly a timing issue, use the not right now approach. Give them a specific timeline like, please feel free to follow up in Q3. That's your golden bridge.
Okay, now for my absolute favorite scenario from the stack of sources, nonprofit donation.
Oh, this one is wild.
It is. The Market Smart source talks about what happens when someone desperately wants to give your organization money or a major gift, but you literally cannot accept it. The example they gave was hilarious, but it really happened. A hostage donor who refused to give his massive financial donation unless he was personally allowed to manage the nonprofit's investment strategy.
Which is a catastrophic conflict of interest for any board of directors.
Right. You have someone holding a giant check, and you have to say no to them. How do you do it? Well, the four-step formula still perfectly applies. You must be deeply empathetic to their desire to give, but totally immovable on your boundaries.
And there is a vital nuance here that surfaced from the community comments in that nonprofit source. When you are giving your brief reasoning in step 3, you must never throw your own organization under the bus to make yourself look like the good guy.
Yes, a commenter named John Lovell pointed this out regarding timeshares. If a donor wants to gift a timeshare to your charity, but your organizational policy strictly forbids taking on the liabilities of real estate, the inner pleaser wants to say, "Oh, I really wish we could take this amazing gift. I completely disagree with our legal department's strict policy on timeshares, but my hands are tied."
Which is a terrible approach. Saying you disagree with your own policy severely undermines your organization's credibility and makes you look deeply unprofessional.
Yeah, it looks so bad.
Instead, you hold the line together. You empathize with their generosity. I know how much you want to see this asset put to good use for our cause, but our governance prevents us from accepting timeshares.
Aw.
And then you build that golden bridge by helping them explore other avenues, perhaps suggesting a broker who can liquidate the timeshare so they can donate the cash.
It's all about holding the line without breaking the human connection. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the main takeaway for everyone listening is that saying no is a muscle. If you've spent your whole life appeasing people, that muscle is going to feel sore and awkward when you first start using it.
Very sore.
You have to start by taking what Leah Morone calls micro risks with your inner pleaser. Small, low-stakes moments like telling a barista that they got your order wrong or saying no to a minor social invite. So your nervous system realizes the world won't end when you set a boundary. You use that mental balcony to find your deeper yes. You fiercely avoid the JB trap of over-explaining, and you rely on the 4-step formula to communicate your boundaries with grace.
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, every time you say a hesitant, resentful yes to a project, a social obligation, or a dynamic that drains your life force, you are simultaneously saying a silent, guaranteed no to your own untapped potential.
Oh, wow.
The hours and the emotional energy you spend constantly appeasing others is energy directly stolen from your own growth, your own family, and your own goals. What if the unique, profound contributions you are meant to give the world can only be unlocked by the boundaries you are too afraid to set today?
I love that. And it brings us right back to where we started. Saying no isn't about cutting the wrong wire and blowing everything up. It's about systematically diffusing the pressure in your life so you can actually build something sustainable. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Start practicing your positive no today. Your inner pleaser might panic at first, but your future self will absolutely thank you.